In fact, you know what? I'm gonna see my unpopular opinion and raise it for you, Forder.
Oh.
I think William Saliba.
So I won't do an intro, FK. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm not bad. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody watching. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good, thanks. I mean, it's what time is it now? 10:20 this evening. We're doing a little pre-recorded show, and I know that you've been getting hyped up, and not about football. Do I kind of spill the beans of your new fad, your new?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not hugely into darts, right? But I knew that the final was on tonight, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. And
It is, yeah, it
Luke
is.
Littler is phenomenal. I mean, the guy, I didn't even know he was just 17, and he's just blown away his opponent in the final, and he's just picked up £500,000, and of course is now world champion at playing darts. But he's just won the title, and it was mesmerising. And listen, Forder, darts, is it a sport? Is it a game? Is it just a pub activity? What's your thoughts?
I don't know. I can kind of distinctly remember doing PE at A level, and my teacher, one, never gave me the opportunity to do darts as my practical. Maybe that's because I wasn't good at darts. But I'm sure he said something along the lines of it has to be like full physical exertion. So no, that's my
No.
answer.
No,
No.
and there's a certain type of physique that you need to have, and I'm kind of almost there to play darts. But no, it was really good fun, really good fun. I'm not an avid fan. I don't watch it regularly, but I tuned in tonight because the hype has been crazy, and it's a good win for a young English lad. And what a story! 17 years old and world champion. Imagine that.
Could you imagine that money? What do you do? Oh,
Well, the money. I mean, I thought you were going to say, could you imagine being number one in your like the pinnacle of
oh,
your
I
of
mean that
your
too.
career? I mean, that'd be phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because the commentator sort of made a sort of remark about Luke when the prize money was announced. They focused on his face, and he was almost like, wow, like, I wasn't even expecting that. But £500,000, that is life changing money. Pay off the mortgage, give some to your friends and family, and
Yeah.
just live the life, man. I mean, what else is there to do? And buy a box at Arsenal, I guess.
He's not even old enough to buy a drink yet.
No,
That's
he's
mad,
not.
isn't it? You know.
He's not. He's not. He's a phenomenal talent. I was going to say phenomenal athlete, but there we are.
Well, we'll go with that. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide for little Luke. Before we start, actually, it brings me on to something. Talking about drink.
Oh yeah.
We need to do a special. I'll let you do the honours because this is your, this is your thing.
That's very kind of you. Very kind of you, Forder. Yeah. So listen, if you're unfamiliar with the Latte Firm game, it's obviously just a show that we do, late night lattes, and the first thing that we do before we tuck into any of the football is talk about snacks and what we're sort of eating during the show. And it's called Snack Check. It's become a real popular thing. I get DMs about it. I get questions about, what's your snack going to be tonight? We live in a very, very funny world, but I entertain it and I love it. So tonight, Forder, my snack check is a dark chocolate Ferrero Rocher. Now listen, Ferrero Rocher is a sensational confectionery, right? I don't know if you're a fan. The classic. I mean, look at this. This is the remnants of Christmas just left on my table. The whole box, brand new, unopened. But they decided to launch a variety of Ferrero Rocher. So there's a coconut version, which is horrendous because all coconut chocolate deserves to go.
Yeah, not for
Absolutely.
me. Not for me.
They've got the originals, the golden wrapped. You're really spoiling us, ambassador. And then you've got these dark chocolate ones, which are an absolute delight. So that is my snack check tonight. It's called Ferrero Ronde Noir, and I'm gonna look into that, my man. What you got for us tonight? What's your snack check?
I am going with. So this is a classic. I don't know what the real name is because I haven't, gone to a shop such as M&S or, I've just gone to Aldi and I've got butter biscuits.
Oh, mate. I mean, come on.
Just these, usually with a cup of tea or a latte. But honestly, these things, I cannot speak highly enough of them. This is Alex was saying the other day.
Is it totally chocolate covered, or is there a bit of exposed?
No,
biscuit?
yeah.
Very nice.
Just that and a can of Diet Coke tonight.
Oh no.
just something to keep me going a little bit, late night talk, late night chat. So I feel like I'm on the Latte fan now. So thanks, FK. I appreciate that,
Mate, I would love to have you on, but thank you very much for the kind words. And I'm now going
that
to
feels like I've
tuck
kind
into
of
this
like
life.
yeah, I want to be on the show. You got to have me on now. That's not what I was angling for, but I'll take it. So thanks very much. Right, we'll have a little chat then. We'll kind of get started with first thing. So we had a little game recently, and it was a game I wasn't kind of too confident with. I thought we would get a win. I thought it would be a tight game. Brentford, I think maybe the second best team at home in the league this season. So, they're a pretty difficult team. And in all fairness, we're one of the few teams in the top 6 that have a pretty good record against them. Especially with our kind of London derby record as well. We've been fantastic. Kind of, what were your thoughts going into the game? Were you kind of expecting a tight game? Were you kind of expecting us to walk all over them? How are you looking at it?
Well, with the nerves and emotions running high about this title race, I'm never expecting us to walk over any team. The Barclays is relentless, particularly this season for them. But if I'm being honest, I was nervous going into the game. For the points that you mentioned, they have a very formidable record at home this season, second best home record in the league. They've scored the most goals in the Premier League this season, and it comes on the back of quite a lackluster performance that we had at the end of the year against Ipswich at home, which we've been lambasted for. So to come over that 1-0, I was a bit nervous about the sort of lack of chance creation for Arsenal. So I was nervous. Team-wise, there was a rumour of a bug going around the camp 3 or 4 hours before kickoff.
Yeah.
Kai Havertz obviously missing out. Declan Rice then decided not to. Well, it was decided that he wouldn't start, and I was just hoping that, look, as long as we're okay defensively, then maybe we'll just see and hope for the best sort of going forward. So I was nervous, and then when the game sort of kicked off, we actually started really well, like control, dominant. We were playing the ball, intricate passes in and around their box. And it looked like we were the sort of heavyweight boxer, sort of just getting ready and taking complete control of the fight. And they couldn't lay a finger, let alone a glove. And then all of a sudden, 12, 13 minutes on the clock, it's just one breakaway. And we've seen it before. We've seen it before many times with Arsenal. I guess it's their sort of high risk, high reward. But they broke away. And to be fair to Brian and Mbeumo, it's a really good finish. And even at that point, for 1-0. The Brentford fans, you know what it's like, right? It's the only game of the day. It's televised. Yeah. It's New Year's Eve. It's the floodlights, the sort of under the cameras and all that sort of stuff. Like, I just thought, right, the Brentford fans are going to be well up on it now. And I thought this could be a really, really uncomfortable evening for us, because all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh my God, what are the media going to say? What the social's going to be like? And we're out the title race. You start running away with all the emotion and the conclusions. But I got to say, just to kind of round up on this answer, I think we showed a real class, a real maturity, and people forget we've got pedigree for of being in a championship sort of title race. For the last 2 years we've been going toe to toe with the juggernaut that is Manchester City. So we're a good team, and it didn't surprise me. We equalised a few minutes later. Second half we came out and blew them away. I'm sure we'll talk about the goals, but yeah, really good day in the office in the end. But I was nervous going into it. I was terrified at 1-0 down, fearing the worst. But we managed to turn it around.
Yeah, 100% with you on that. I mean, Mbeumo's goal, I've got it written down here. I mean, we spoke before this, so for those of you that don't know, I am not able to recite all the data that I spill, and I do have my notes, but I've got down 0.06 XG, not even 0.6. And then, but for his XGOT, so obviously that's for once the shot's released, 0.53, which shows how good that finish was. And I mean, I would love some players like that where in transition we've got some almost that, I hate that word, but inevitability, and just someone that kind of strikes some fear, because sometimes when we break, we don't have that pure pace. And I don't think he would fit perfectly in Mbeumo and what we do, but you just see the effectiveness of him, and he was just so good on that breakaway. And unfortunately, that's just kind of the narrative of this whole season, isn't it? I think every time someone gets a shot away, doesn't matter the XG of it, it seems to be going in the back of our net recently. And unfortunately, that was how it played out at the beginning. But we showed real strength of character in this game. I think maybe this is our only second win from going behind away from home in the last year.
Really? Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but quite often when we do go behind, we don't really get back to it. Maybe we'll get a draw, but usually kind of overturning that scoreline is a little bit of a different matter. But I think they were just fantastic. And we'll kind of go into the players and, what we thought of each one of them. But I've got over here, it's interesting, looking at the Arsenal player of the match, they gave it to Waneri, whereas the Premier League itself gave it to Jesus. For me, I didn't choose either of them. So I thought it was a really interesting, really interesting view. I went personally for Partey. But,
wow,
I mean, for you, who did you kind of see as the standout performer?
This is interesting. I hadn't recognised that Gabriel Jesus was the Premier League man of the match, but Waneri, obviously, look, he's the young kid on the block. He was coming in to fill in for Bukayo Saka, who's obviously been amazing, and I think people are excited by Waneri. So get ready for lots of man of the match sort of shouts if we continue to win these games with him in the team. I said on the post-match phone-in that we do on Latte Firm that for me, my man of the match was going to be Thomas Partey. That first 45 minutes, I think, is up there with probably his best 45 minutes in an Arsenal shirt. And, Forder, sometimes you see these compilations, like these 2-minute videos that people are very good and very quick at getting out after a game of every touch, every interception, every pass, every shot that a player has. The best way that I can describe it is that first 45 minutes felt like I was watching a Thomas Partey compilation. Like, he was just winning every challenge. He was running with the ball, carrying it, progressive passes, breaking the lines, like duels, like just winning all of them. Like, he was just unbelievable. But the reason why I say it would have been Thomas Partey is because I think actually Jurrien Timber pipped it for me in the end. I think Timber was outstanding. Like, I know Saliba and Gabriel, they get all of the plaudits, and rightly so. But for a guy who's coming in and playing week after week, when you've missed a year, and he looks like he's been here forever. And there was a moment in that second half, and I think the ball was in front of the Brentford forward, and he's literally done a John Terry and just dived and put his whole body in front of the ball to get to shield it to David Raya. And I think this guy has got the bollocks, and he's got the ability, and he's just, forgive me for swearing, he's just unreal. And you'd be forgiven for picking any of the four that we've mentioned, but I think Jurrien Timber is the unsung hero, particularly in recent games, and he's never going to get the attention because Saliba and Gabriel are just so imperious. But Partey's a great shout, mate. I can't argue with that. What are your thoughts on a Thomas Partey new contract?
Put me in a spot there. I'm really in between two minds of it. If you asked me a month or two ago, I would have said, at his age, with his injury record. Sorry if you can hear that. Can you hear my dog sneezing in the background?
Nope.
So welcome to the Cannon Forder podcast, because this happens every episode. Like, I genuinely think at some point my journey in content will go along, and at some point I'll cross paths with Ben White and I'll be walking a dog, and that's where I'll be. But right now I'm just here with my dog sneezing, so apologies.
I can see him, but we can't hear him, so don't worry.
But no, a couple of months ago I would have said Thomas Partey, his time has come. I think he was a profile that at the time, come last summer, there were a few players I was looking at that we could have brought in that would have made sense, with a view to, like, at the end of the season, Partey will go and they'll kind of, from a deputy, step into the role. Now I look at it and I think if he continues the way he's been going, I don't see any reason why not to extend his contract. Whether or not he'll do it, because I think it will be his last opportunity for a long contract and a lucrative one. I don't think that's what we'll go for. I think we'll essentially say 1-year extension. So I don't really know what the club will do, but right now I think he's, either way, I won't be upset. I'll be happy. I think he's a wonderful player, great experience to have around the club. And at the same time, if we moved him on, then I'm sure we can fill that spot. However, saying that, Jorginho's contract's up as well, isn't it?
Mm.
And I do think that's a profile that's probably easier this summer to replace or replicate, I guess. Someone like Zubimendi could come in, another ball-playing defensive
Great
midfielder,
player.
someone with a calm head. So maybe that's where we go. I mean, it's easier said than done getting him out of a club. It's so ironic, isn't it? At the moment, you've got Liverpool fans talking about Trent and how he needs to stay and he shouldn't go to Real Madrid. And they're completely dismissing this idea when they're talking about Zubimendi leaving his boyhood club, and then just kind of up sticks and going to them. But there we go, the irony of football. But where do you stand on it? Would you keep him? Would you kind of let him go?
Look, the Thomas Partey situation is quite complex, and obviously there's lots of things that we have to consider that we're just not experts on, and we, don't want to. I never sort of speculate on my channel, so I wouldn't want to do it on your channel. From a football perspective, or footballistically, as Arsene Wenger used to say, I think he's a great player, and I think he's done an amazing job this season. It's mental when I think about it, because at the start of the summer, I sort of tongue-in-cheek put him as my unexpected performer of the season. And I'm sat here today thinking, my God, we've just watched a world-class performance just in his last game, that first 45 minutes. And, if he was not the highest paid, or one of the highest paid players at the club, 275 grand a week, if he wasn't the age that he is, you'd sort of entertain a relatively reasonable wage on a mid to long-term contract, no problem. But I think his age profile, the money that he'd command, and the length of contract that he'd want, and given some of the stuff that obviously is out there, I'm kind of with you. I'd be indifferent. Like if it was a 1-year extension because Jorginho was going, and because we couldn't find someone to come in, and he was, let's say, the floor of the midfield, or the sort of the squad option, I think that's probably astute business. But the club will make a decision, and I think I'll be happy either way. What I don't want categorically is like a 4 or 5 year contract on a 250, 300 grand a week deal, which I know he won't get. But I think there's too much that's happened over the last 3-4 years with him and his fitness and his availability, for whatever reason, that I think would be a big risk.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have a little look, actually, because I have got Sofa Scores ratings for the match, and I was really, really surprised. I mean, ironically, apart from David Raya, Timber has got the lowest score there, FK. I mean, I don't want to bring that to your attention, but
listen, all I'm going to say is, sometimes it takes the trailblazer to notice the real talent, and I'm going to be that guy. No, listen, look, this is the beauty of the game, right? Maybe I saw it from the perspective that I felt safe when I saw Yuri and Timber, because Brentford looked so dangerous, especially at 1-0 up. But look, you can pick any of these boys, and ultimately the fact that we sat here debating over 3, 4, 5, 6 potential men of the match is a good position to be in. But that score is probably a little bit harsh.
No, I always just find it really interesting because I never agree with him. I never, ever agree with him. So I always look and I go, yeah, not what I would have gone with. But I would love to know whether they are kind of rated by an individual, or if it's kind of done off an algorithm based on their stats.
Yeah, I've often thought that, and I would guess that they're done by stats. I can't imagine there's someone who rates these players for every game, because presumably these stats exist for every game, right? Or there's a rating for every player in every match. So, yeah, I mean, and to make it so subjective would be risky. It probably diminishes the value of you going to this site, for example, and bringing up the stats. So it's got to be stat driven. You'd think it would be.
Yeah, I would guess so. And it's nice to know that over this calendar year, we have got the -- 1 rated player in Bukayo Saka. So over the whole of 2024, he was the #1 in the Premier League. So, and we're missing him. But are we? Because if you look at Wineri, I mean, I think he was just fantastic on the day. He's a player I think had a lot on his plate for that game. I don't think he was actually meant to start. From what I hear, it's meant to be Havertz and Jesus kind of playing as the 9s in that game. And then with the sickness bug, Havertz kind of left out. Wineri thrown in at the deep end in Bukayo Saka's shoes. But what a performance. He just glides past players. He's far kind of more mature than his years. We're really, really lucky. Out of Hale End right now, we've got Bukayo Saka, we've got Mars Lewis-Skelly, and now Wineri as well. And I will say there are others coming through, but I don't think we can kind of put Max Dowman, a 14-year-old, in that kind of in that standing as of yet, but usually you wait kind of 10, 20 years for a player to come through, and we're looking at 3 fantastic players at this moment in time. Do you kind of prefer him out there? Do you kind of look at Waneri as number 10? Do you look at him as some people have even saying as like a left 8? I mean, where do you stand on him? Because that performance I thought was just fantastic.
Yeah, listen, I guess first, it's really unfortunate that we have so many injuries at left back and we're so short of options in midfield and out wide that I think these 2 young chaps, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri, are getting minutes. You know, if Tomiyasu, if Calafiori, if Zinchenko, if Ben White, if they're all fit and Timber could have played at left back when Ben White was playing at right back, I don't think Miles Lewis-Skelly's getting in the squad, let alone the team. So sometimes, and it's a bit like, you know, we've seen over the years, right? Cesc and Elko, and they used to where they came through because they had opportunities and they've grabbed them. And Miles Lewis-Skelly, what he has done in a very difficult position at such a young age, and Arsene Wenger always used to talk about young defenders, they cost you points. He's shown this calmness, this composure, this ability to just kind of tuck into midfield and be that progressive left back that we want our fullbacks to be, just with such ease. And Nwaneri, the word to describe, you know, is exciting. You know, he's the sort of player that will get you up off your feet. He's the sort of player that, you know, we used to say back in the day, you'd pay your money to go and watch him. And, you know, Bukayo Saka is phenomenal. You know, he's devastating. He's inevitable. He's the golden boy. And so to come in to play that position, you're under a lot of pressure, particularly in a game that we have to win. And I thought he did himself absolutely no harm. He was really exciting. And to your point, you know, he's explosive from a standing position in terms of his acceleration, so he can burst past players. He looks like he's very nimble. I think he might even be quicker off the ball than Saka. Like, I'm not saying that he's anywhere near Saka as a player, obviously, but in terms of like comparisons, he looked good. He looked comfortable on the right hand side. Do you remember when Arsene Wenger used to stick out players on the right to help them, to help educate them, to help get them? You know, Aaron Ramsey. Remember how frustrated we were, like, he's not a right winger. But Arsene used to say, like, you know, you have more space, you have more time on the ball, you can make more decisions when you're out on the right, as opposed to being in central midfield where the game is just so ferocious. So I think, look, if Nwaneri now gets a burst of games, he can really show, a bit like what Miles Lewis-Skelly has done, what he's capable of. And to have them both from Hale End, what a story. I mean, Per Mertesacker and formerly, you know, Jack Wilshere and co, what a job they're doing. And we've got so many good youngsters coming through. Cheeto, of course, he left. He's doing bits for the United reserves. He's, you know, all sort of jokes aside, he's actually doing really well there. Max Dowman, you say, just turned 15, ready. I mean, he's playing with the under-19s, under-21s. It's incredible player.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, we're so lucky to see that at the moment. And I mean, for me, right now it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for the January transfer window. I mean, we'll get onto it a little bit later, but it's really nice that you've got a player who's kind of stood up and said, you know, you can't just ignore me anymore, because I think it was far too easy when Odegaard was out for Arteta to kind of revert to seniority. And that's been a kind of common theme through Arteta's tenure, where he looks at players and he goes, what's going to be the option that I can kind of guarantee? And it might not be the optimal choice, but it's the one that he's kind of 90% sure on. And I think Nwaneri now and Miles, they've both kind of thrown their names in their hat and said, actually, you can pick us for big matches. You can pick us for different positions. I'd love to see Miles at some point. It's a shame that this hasn't happened kind of earlier on in the season, because I think maybe in the League Cup we could have had Miles playing in midfield, possibly even. And, you know, we're just looking at 2 players that I think will go strength to strength. I think
what I would say, just in closing, if you don't mind, Ford, I think we shouldn't spend too much time speculating about where they're going to end up and what they're going to do. Look, the coaches know best. They're going to try different positions to kind of get them developing their game and maturing. And, you know, these guys have got physically a lot of time to grow. You know, you don't stop growing until you're, 19, 20, 21. So Ethan Nwaneri could become even stronger. He could become even quicker, like, you know, like Miles Lewis-Skelly the same. I think Lewis-Skelly is always trained as a midfielder. Ethan Nwaneri started off as a striker, which is why Mikel Arteta talked about him being potentially number 9 in future. Just enjoy it. And I'll probably go against the grain here. when our players are back and when they are fully fit, sadly, I think both of them go straight back down the pecking order. Not because they're not any good. It's just, I think, Calafiori when he's fully fit, Tomiyasu when he's fully fit, if he's ever fully fit, Timber, White when they're back. I don't think Lewis Skelly gets back in that back four. So we just got to be patient with them. Enjoy it while it is now. Let's watch them develop. Let's give them the game time. Let's give them the support that they need, and they'll come good within a year or two. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Oh, 100%. And I will go back to your Timber point as well, because I think part of the reason Waneri's so good in that game was because Timber was coming real high and wide and allowing him to come inside. And I think we're really lucky that at this point in time, we've got such established senior players that are capable of helping them through games. I think it kind of goes back to the point when we were talking about Partey. We're able to bring these players in and they're kind of surrounded by the right choices and the right kind of voices. I mean, if you're looking at a play like Waneri right now, he's not only got Odegaard around him and Timber, or maybe like a Ben White or someone like that out on the right back situation, but they're also looking at a player like Bukayo Saka, who's come through Hill End, knows exactly how to do it the right way. Obviously, he has got his head on his shoulders. His head is screwed on, that boy. And on top of that, the way he plays the game is so efficient. So then they're watching that day in, day out and going, that's how I can kind of make the maximum out of my potential. So it'll be really interesting to see where we go over the next, like you say, the next year or two. I do want to go on with someone who's having a bit of a rich vein of form. I'll put it that way. I don't know if you want to say he flatters to deceive, or if you want to say he should be gone by now, or he's the next Messiah. But Jesus, I mean, you can't say he's not playing well at the moment, and he's really forced himself in. I do wonder whether Havertz will come straight back in when we play our next game. Where do you think this has come from? Because it's been a while since we've seen this version of Jesus. Is this just he's played himself into form, or is this him being fit, or where do you stand on it?
It's probably a mix of a number of things. It's probably the fact that he has been working really hard, and he's played himself into a bit of form because of the fixtures that we've had, and because he's managed to get some game time with Kai Havertz dipping in form and taking some time out of the team. Yeah, with Gabby Jesus, when he first arrived, we saw how much he elevated us as that centre forward. He was a hard-working player. He could score goals. He was, not giving defenders a rest. He was causing all sorts of havoc. Kai Havertz came in. He's, a completely different type of forward. Started the season really well. I think 7 or 8 games in a row at the Emirates. He was nabbing a goal, and in the last 9 or 10, he's only got 2 goals and assists. So it's amazing how fortune changes. But with Gabby Jesus, I feel for him, because every time you hear about him getting fit, fitness-wise, challenges for him have been sort of injuries and just keeping fit, staying fit. And Mikel at the start of the summer said that he noticed something different with Jesus, and he looked fitter, he looked leaner, he looked stronger, and he does. And, excuse me, 6 goals now in 4 games. The previous 6 took him 48 games. So that's the contrast. So sometimes it is a bit about having a run in the team, the fixtures that you play, and he's taken advantage of it.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at the stats for this last game. So 1 goal, obviously, which I thought was a real kind of striker's goal, a real poacher's goal. The fact that as the ball was struck by Thomas Partey, he was already going in. And I think a lot of people watching the highlights would look at it like the rebound comes, Jesus then darts in for the header. But it's so interesting because, I mean, I played as a striker, nowhere near the level, obviously, as much as I wish that I could say I was similar level. But it was really nice to see that it's those split seconds make the difference. And I do wonder if, a defender gets in the way, if he's not able to go as soon as that ball is struck by Partey. And it was a lot
where
kind
that's
of
coming
more
from, though, Border? I'm really sorry to interrupt, but you know where that's coming from? That's coming from confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
He bagged a hat-trick against Crystal Palace. He bagged a goal at Selhurst Park. And he's in the moment. He's living it. He's anticipating things. All of a sudden, things become a little bit slower, and he's watching things happen, and he's sharp, and he's He's reactive, first one to act, like you say, and sometimes, you know, right man at the right time at the right place. But he's taking advantage of it, and that's just the best thing. Like, I want him to just keep getting himself in those positions, keep taking chances, and if he scores, great. If he doesn't score, keep your head up, keep going. Sorry, you guys.
Well, no, you're 100% right. I think the bravery he showed there, that's something that, you know, when you see, especially midfielders sometimes, when they're not confident, there's a 50-50 challenge and they start pulling out. And you're like, oh, I mean, that's something that really grates with me. I think with that, he really showed the bravery to go in for that header, because a lot of strikers would go, I might not get this. So I'm not, I'll make a half-hearted effort. And that's the difference. I think also he's able to open up that left-hand side. The kind of the pre-World Cup Jesus, let's call him that, he was able to really get the best out of Martinelli. I think that's part of the reason. It's not the sole reason that Martinelli's not been performing, but Jesus does kind of interchange with him. He does drag midfielders with movement, and it's something slightly different to Havertz. Like you said, the profiles are so different. I didn't see a way back for Jesus. I thought we would have Jesus, Havertz, and the next iteration of the attack would have to be another striker, to be honest. But having said that, I think Jesus has really shown that if he can kind of stay fit, if he can be a bit more consistent with his performances, he's such an interesting kind of nuance to our attack. He just gives us different options. He allows the attack to flow through him. He also kind of drags defenders out, which is really nice. So then you have runners in behind. Martinelli's biggest problem for me has been his out to in runs. Just some of the choices that he makes are they're just so frustrating. There's no other word for it. But when Jesus is in that team, he almost forces Martinelli to make the right choice sometimes. And I think part of him getting that goal is because he's in the right place. But I thought Jesus was just fantastic. And long may it continue, because right now we need our attack, all of them, to kind of step up without Bukayo Saka. But we'll kind of go on the next thing. So let's have a little look. I can't even remember what my next slide is, I'll be honest with you. So the stats of the game, I have got them here. We are making big chances, which is great, because 2 big chances, and recently, like you said, Ipswich, it was not the kind of the most penetrating attack we've seen. We kind of, for me, we get towards the final third, and from there it's, what do we do next? If you look on the right, I have to shout out Scott Willis. I am stealing one of his graphics here. I hope he doesn't mind. If you haven't, please go subscribe and follow Scott Willis. Unbelievable. But you can just see the deep touches, and I think that just forced Brentford back. And they obviously decided that they would play quite deep with us. I think a lot of teams have worked out one of the best ways to play against us is sit deep and then hit us on the counter-attack. But I don't think they thought they were going to sit that deep, and that was just forced from us. The amount of deep touches we had, the pressing, I'll say like Marino, he doesn't really get shouted out that often. I think some people are almost misreading his profile right now, but I read somewhere that he had, I think, 5 final third pressures that he won, which is the most of the Premier League this season, which just shows he's a player's just kind of, he's like the misunderstood. He's like the black sheep of the midfield right now that no one really understands, no one really wants. But I think we need him. We need some different faces to our faces of play right now, because that's the only way I can see us kind of catching and kind of diminishing that gap with Liverpool right now. We'll go on to the next thing, talking about that. So, the January transfer window.
Exciting.
Now, before this, I did ask FJ, I don't know if you've had time, because, you know, you've been busy watching your new sport. You've been busy watching children throw things at walls. Did you come up with 3 players for a wish list, FK?
Well, it's a difficult question, because you've got your fantasy list, and Alex Isak would be top of my fantasy list, and then you've got an almost realistic list, which kind of includes, well, I guess now in the last 24 hours it's been sort of shared on socials that Arsenal are keen on Matheus Cunha, But of course, Wolves are your number one boy there. But of course, Wolves are now in contract negotiations with him. They're trying to, keep hold of him at least until the end of the season. And rightly so. He's been fantastic for them, and he's a very influential player there. So yeah, it's a sort of mix between reality and fantasy. I mean, my fantasy signings, look, in terms of positions, I would love a centre forward. I would love, and when I say centre forward, I want someone prolific, someone who has the ability to come in and just smash the goals in. And I love what Victor Gyökeres is doing at Sporting. I think he got a hat trick tonight as well. So 62 games in 62 goals, in 2024, the calendar year, 62 goals. He started off this year with a hat trick, and I'm not going to say to you, Forder, that I'm like the biggest sort of expert on Portuguese football. I don't sit there and watch it every week, but I took note of what he did against City, albeit a flailing sort of City, but he tore them a new one. He's got pace, he's got power, and he's a good finisher. And it's funny because he went through in that one-on-one, which he scuffed, and immediately I was on the socials going, what a waste of money. And then 5 minutes later, he bangs in his first goal, and it was a brilliant goal. So, and even, playing against us, he didn't score, but he caused us no end of problems, and he hit the woodwork twice. And he's very different to what Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus are. Like, the pace and power is something that I want. Alex Isak is obviously the number one. What a phenomenal signing he would be. I don't think it's going to happen in Jan, and I'm hesitant about maybe the summer, because Newcastle are going good. If they finish in the Champions League, he might have his head turned back again, and he might sort of end up staying. So in terms of reality, Matheus Cunha is a player that I like, but he's neither a forward nor a winger, which is the other position that I would love. One thing that I think we miss, and you touched upon this a few moments ago, was just we don't have speed in our team. Yeah. We have speed of play, and that's very different to having out and out electric pace. And what I mean by speed, just to kind of give people an idea, I miss the days of when we'd win the ball back through Bakary Sagna, and then Walcott would just put the afterburners on. And Walcott on his day was unplayable. You play him through into space, no one's stopping him, no one's touching him, no one's getting close to him. And I feel we just missed that. Saka's quick on, off the ball. Martinelli is quick. Jesus can be quick on his day, but that's really about it. I know Kai Havertz has clocked up fast speeds, so second fastest speed at the World Cup, behind Marcus Rashford, who is another name. But I just want raw pace, and I totally understand why Mikel kind of wanted Mykhailo Mudryk, although his career is really sort of sunk. So my first two options, position-wise, would be wide forward and centre forward. Matheus Cunha is neither of those, but I think he's a really good player. And I think if we were to sign him over anybody else, I wouldn't be disappointed about it, because I think he's a good player. And I think actually he'd slot into that left eight really beautifully. I think he's a great ball carrier, physically dominant, imposes himself, influential in play, finds himself in and around the box, gets shots away really well, and he's versatile. So I wouldn't say no, but I would say that I'd have other priorities. But the thing is, mate, you know it as well as I do, January's such a tough window.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, I look right now, for me, it looks like release clauses are the way forward for the club. I mean, you mentioned Gyökeres. I've got a couple of his stats down right now. So 99th percentile for non-pen XG, 96th for shots total. He is, and that's something we lack. Someone that is a shoot first player. We don't really have anyone like that. I think even if you watch the games where he doesn't score and he doesn't even play well, as soon as he gets the ball, his first thought is forwards. And don't get me wrong, that's not always what you need. But in those games where, I think back to like Bayern Munich, when we went down and we needed a goal, a player like Gyökeres he's just a force of nature. He's a player that just takes the responsibility and goes, I know what I want to do. I know what we need. That's my job. And he's not the most kind of aesthetically pleasing player. He's not someone who's fantastic in build-up, but he's so powerful in progressive running. He's so good with his shooting. He's just a player I would love, and a player with a release clause, which apparently has been reduced and kind of negotiated with Coventry, which is interesting.
Really?
So apparently they've kind of said about 10 million less than the original release clause, which I thought was just madness that Coventry would do that, but there we go. So yeah, he's one player. You've got Nico Williams would be an interesting buy. Cheap release clause, big wages, hasn't really kind of stood up on the stage where we thought he would be after the Euros. I think he's a player that everyone is expecting to explode this season, and he hasn't really. Betis haven't done amazing, so maybe it's a case of the collective rather than the individual. But he would be an interesting buy. Lookman, there's kind of conflicting views with Lookman and his release clause. Some people are saying it's not on for this January. Some people say it's only for January. It's really interesting looking at that. But he's a player I would love. I think his hat trick in the in the Europa League, wasn't it? I think that just showed he's again a different type of profile. Someone with electric pace, with power, able to play out on the wing, able to do those out to in runs that I was mentioning earlier. He's just, I think, someone that could just completely change our attack. But for me, yeah, it looks like maybe a release clause is the way forward. We said about Isak earlier. I think that has to be a summer move, and I think that's one where you'd have to try to get him to agitate the move. And whether or not Arsenal would do that, it's not really our style to do that.
The only issue with the release clause, Forder, is just to kind of interrupt you again rudely. Sorry, is that
no, you go for it.
You'd have to pay it all up front.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. So you can't structure, you can't use amortization. You have to pay all the money cash, turn up with cash in the bags on the doorstep of the club. Whereas if you were to bid for a player like a Mateus Cunha, for example, and if you were to offer 60 million quid, you could pay 12 million pounds over 5 years, for example. Release clause, you're right, that would make it easier for us to go and actually nab a player. But I think financially, I'm not sure how that messes up PSR, PPR, whatever the hell it's called these days.
Yeah,
Another forward that I love is Bino Gittens at Dortmund, the 20-year-old kid, former Manchester City player. He's ripping it up at the moment, but it is his first full season, and he's been hampered with injury over the last couple of years. So just one to watch, maybe. 20 years old, Londoner, used to be at Watford, ended up going to City, and he's only, he's just tearing it up in the Bundesliga at the moment.
Another player in the Bundesliga is Marmoush. I know we were linked with him last week. He's a real interesting player. I mean, incredible free kicks. I think he holds the record for like 3 consecutive games of scoring 3 kicks.
When was the last time we scored one? Was it that Burnley game? Odegaard?
Must be.
Shocking.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
Sign him up for that alone.
Just bring him on like American football, just to kick and just take him back off again. But I mean, a real interesting profile, someone that's incredible running, like real sudden turn of pace. You mentioned it earlier about, that kind of stop-start with Waneri. It's similar to that, but even more electric. Really good with pressing. I just think looking at him, he's just a really, really different profile, and someone that we could probably get a lot cheaper. I don't think it's the marquee signing that a lot of kind of fans would look at and go, oh, that's the player I want. If we got him through the door, I would be over the moon with that. I think he's scored now, so 13 goals, 7 assists in 15 games this season.
That's just in the Bundesliga.
Yeah,
he's got 4 and 2 more in the Europa League, and I'm sure he scored in the German Cup as well. I mean, look, this guy is, again, I don't claim to be the expert. I'm sure there'll be many channels out there that do this, a sort of deep dive into him, although, we'll do the breakdown in case it is a link. But look, his numbers are insane. He's 24, 25. Did I read that? So good age. And he's Egyptian, and Egyptians seem to be turning out brilliant wide forwards at the moment. And Mo Salah is obviously the ultimate. So, look, if there's interest there, I've also read that the City is sniffing around Liverpool, also maybe. So if the competition is going to be fierce, then I'm not sure how well we stand. But again, it's a player that can score goals, that is fast, that can score free kicks. Yeah, I'm all for it, mate. If that could happen, that'd be the cherry.
It's really interesting as well. He plays so many different positions, because for Egypt he plays on the opposite flank to Salah, which is where I would kind of see him if he did come to the club. But he kind of plays as a support striker, a lone striker. He's real versatile. 99th percentile for shot creating actions as well. So this is a guy who's not just, a shot machine. He's someone that can create things as well, which is something, again, we lack. So
The versatility is important. The versatility is important for because I think if you go out and buy someone who's just right-sided, you need someone to come in and step in on that left-hand side. I think Trossard has tried to be put into different positions, and let's not go too sort of hard on him. He did a job when he first came in. That first 6 months, he was great. I think we could do better. The other player, just to finish off my shortlist, would be Semenyo down at Bournemouth.
Fantastic player.
Yeah, look, he's good. I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know if he's good enough to play at a top club. But if you remember the Monday Night Football that happened towards the back end of the year, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville doing their sort of teams of the year. Neither of them actually had picked him, but the Sky Sports team had picked him based on data, and it was data off the ball, on the ball. He's a very, very hard worker. Wins all his duels. His defensive actions as a wide forward, and of course his scoring goals are great and things. And I think. I don't know how old he is, 23, 24, I would imagine.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Bournemouth would want for the boy, but if there's interest there, maybe that's something else to look at. So, look, there's probably one or two options out there, but I don't know, man. It's the 3rd of January. Why have you not signed anyone yet, Forder? Come on. What's going on? What's going on? Get your money out, buddy.
If you were going to predict, do we do a big move? Do we do any move? Because this is my worry. As much as I think the club have to, if they're really serious about us kind of catching Liverpool, overtaking Liverpool, I think Liverpool will have a rough patch at some stage. I don't think they can keep this pace. Having said that, with Bukayo Saka's injury, having Raheem Sterling out, who didn't kind of have much confidence from Arteta either, I think the club really need to get someone over the line. I don't think it would be a huge signing, personally. I don't think, like you said, an Isak, I don't think that's possible. I don't think a Gyökeres it really is. I could see us maybe getting in a left winger now, and then in the summer getting a striker, maybe a Sesko, someone we haven't mentioned, with a real kind of high ceiling, someone that, potentially could supersede Havertz. What do you see happening? Do you see it being kind of, do we switch? There's this talk of Ferguson and we get rid of Neto, or we get, I don't know, and get another loan in. What would you, if you're putting your money on it, what do you see happening?
Well, look, do we need someone? Absolutely. I think we need a body because we're just short up top, whether that's an attacking midfielder, whether that's a wide forward, whether that's a striker. Let's get someone in. I think if the club weren't to add anyone in the hope of signing a big talisman in the summer, I think what you're effectively doing is wise for the summer, but you're diminishing our chances of winning a title and sort of conceding halfway through, which I don't think is a good look. I don't think a marquee signing is going to happen for that. That doesn't mean that we can't go out and get a good player. Cunha might not be the marquee signing, but he would be a good player. Semenyo equally would be a good player. Gyökeres, I think if you chuck enough money at Sporting, the fact that their manager walked out on them and is, playing a team that's 7 points above managing a team that's 7 points above the relegation zone proves that the Premier League has severe pull. And if Gyökeres wants to do things in his career,
I can't help but smile.
Of course, yeah. You and I both. Yeah. let's just get carried away. But no, I think he's phenomenal. I think if there was money at the club and we could chuck it at him, then it's something that I would consider doing. Because I think Isak, the better he gets, the more expensive he becomes. The better that Newcastle get, the harder it becomes to prize him away from them. So, look, will we? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping so, mate. Because there's a lot of football to be played, and we've got 9 games in January over a 29-day period, and players are going to be gassed very, very soon. So we need bodies.
Yeah, 100%. And you've kind of done it for me. Lovely segue there. So the next thing is this: previewing the next fixture, because we have got a lot of them. They're coming thick and fast. So Brighton coming up. Unfortunately, there's a picture there, which brings me on to my first point. Timber unfortunately picked up a yellow card in our last fixture, so will be suspended. Now, I've got something. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works in a minute, but I'll let you go first. What would you do with that right back situation? And please don't say bring Ben White in on crutches.
No, I'm not gonna. Ben's gonna be back in 3 or 4 weeks, so that's a major plus. I think the obvious thing to do is to play Kieran Tierney at right back. No, I'm joking. The obvious thing to do is to play Thomas Partey at right back. As much as I don't like that, bring in Deckers if he's fit to play that number 6. Keep Marino and Odegaard. I can see Arteta doing something a little bit mental, which is Calafiori maybe moving across to the right and Miles Lewis-Skelly playing left back. But I think that's too much disruption. Like Calafiori's just come back in, let him play at left back, keep the middle two. Have Partey who can tuck in and play almost as a midfielder. Let those 3 at the back then become a back 3 while we're in possession. Partey sits alongside Rice, and then we sort of go from there. I'm more relaxed about Partey coming in forward because I think Brighton have been very hit and miss this season. They started the season really well, if you remember. Yeah. Top 2, top 3 for 6, 7, 8 weeks, and got a good young manager there, and they're building a squad again. But their season has been so unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get. They're 10th at the moment, won 6, drawn 9, lost 4, something ridiculous like that, whatever the numbers are. So sort of very, very, very unpredictable. So I feel comfortable if we go there, play our game, we should be okay. But I would probably do Partey at right back. You?
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. I mean, the Calafiori one, the only reason I could kind of see that happening is maybe because he likes to dive in with his left foot. And with
I think Calafiori right back.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not what I would do. I'm just thinking if that was the kind of choice, maybe it's because he dives in with the left foot, MOTM coming inside. That might be something that they're looking at, and
it's a shout.
Kind of trying to then force him out wide. I mean, I'm kind of going back and forth. I thought he was mental the other week. Someone, I can't remember who it was. Someone had mentioned Declan Rice playing right back, and I thought, never in a million years, I would never do that. And then as time's gone on, I had a little listen to the Forever Arsenal podcast, and James B started mentioning it, and I thought, God, he's gone mental. And the problem is, it started catching, and I'm going now. Actually,
no,
physically,
look, right.
I mean, hear me out here, FK. Hear me out here, right? Okay. So, able to move into midfield. Yep. Has played not right back, but has played in the centre of the defence previously. Physically, he's able to progress the ball kind of in his running in a different way to Partey. So is that a possibility that he can kind of bring it upfield that way, maybe get in an overlap? Crossing the ball, we've seen it from a dead ball situation, so maybe that's an idea. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying it is the best option, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, listen, look, it's an idea, and
yeah, that's the best start of going. It's an idea, but it's a terrible.
No, I don't want to be rude, but like I think Mikel, if he tries it and it works, fantastic. I think Partey's played that right back now 2 or 3 times. The game against Liverpool against Luis Diaz, who he kept really quiet, was a big test. And Mitoma is a fantastic wide player. Of course, we know on his day he can cause teams all sorts of trouble. But I think because Partey's played there, and because Rice is one of the best number 6s in the game, let's just go with that. I actually really like your challenge of Calafiori, a left footer on the right back position, just because needs must. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think Calafiori coming back, let him just sort of settle into that sort of left back position. But the options are there. It's just a real travesty, mate, that Ben White's out and he's missed so long, and Tomiyasu's out the same bloody time. It's a real shame because I like Partey in midfield, and I don't like to disrupt the rest of the team too much.
No, and Arteta, to be fair, has talked, ironically, I think it was to James pre-season about that pod of Odegaard, Ben White and Saka. And I know people straight away going to be screaming, going, but Saka's not available and Ben White's not available. Nonetheless, he will want to kind of keep as much consistency as possible throughout that team. And we've got enough disruption on that left-hand side without the right-hand side changing even more. And doing something crazy like putting Declan Rice at right back. But I do wonder what he'll do up front. And I'm not a big fan of Havertz playing midfield, but with Partey going to right back, I don't know why, but I have a feeling he's going to bring Havertz back into midfield.
Left 8.
In that left 8 slot to then kind of come up towards Jesus and fill that role. I can just see that happening. So I'm throwing it out there to warn people before people start, throwing things at the screen as the lineup comes out with a Havertz in midfield. I mean, it's to me, it's not as bad as some people say. There are advantages of having him there. He's not the perfect left 8, but I would say right now in our squad, we don't really have a perfect left 8. I think come the summer, it's a position that, again, we'll probably have to start looking at. Marino has got his pros, he's got his cons. Declan Rice, for me, I prefer him in a 6. Havertz isn't great there. We've seen Trossard even played as that left 8. Sorry. It would be interesting to see what happens come the summer, but yeah, I think Partey it right back for this one. Predictions. What are you going for in this one?
Ooh, because Brighton are unpredictable and because we have to win. And listen, we're unbeaten in 12 now, and in our last 12 in all competitions, 9 wins, 3 draws. Brighton, I think, have had 5 draws in the last 7. In fact, they've drawn their last 3 from memory. So I think we can take them. I think we will. I can see Brighton scoring. I hope it's not first, because I don't think I could do another sort of emotional roller coaster. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we just went there and slapped them 3-0 forward and came back home with the 3 points? Wouldn't that be nice? But look, we've been really good there recently. We've in our last 4 visits, we've won 3, we've drawn 1. And it's not as much of a bogey ground as I certainly remember it to be every time the fixture comes up. So I fancy us. I think we'll be fine. I think it'll be 3 or 4-1.
Ooh,
yeah,
that'd be so nice, wouldn't it? For
it would be
the reincarnation of Stoke City to win a 4-1. No set pieces, just good old fashioned open play goals. I'm gonna be boring here. I'm gonna go with. I honestly think it'll just be a 1-0 victory.
I'll take that. Old.
I mean, I will.
If we get 19 1-0 victories from now to the end of the season, mate, I will take it.
Could you imagine?
Where do I sign?
The narrative on Twitter would be unbelievable. I would love that.
Imagine 19 set pieces for 19 wins.
So our last segment. So I've asked FK for his unpopular opinion.
Ooh, love the picture.
So we try to, on this show, give one little unpopular opinion. So I'll repeat mine. I've got lynched for this in the past. I'm going to lynch for it in the future. To be fair, I have a bit more reasoning now. So my unpopular opinion is not, and I will state this one more time, is not that Jurgen Klopp was a poor manager. That's not what I've said. He is slightly overrated. And my reasoning for that was originally because he only won the Premier League in a COVID season. So little asterisk there. And ironically, if Slot wins the Premier League this season, then he's taken over the same squad and he's done what Klopp couldn't do. Win it in a full season. It says
more about Klopp than it does about Slot, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Liverpool fans are going to be coming for me, aren't they? They're going to hate me.
They will. They will.
But your unpopular opinion?
Well, it's linked to Arsenal, so I didn't realise that it could have been anything. But I'm going to get pelters for this because. And you know what? Actually, I'm intrigued to know how you take it, because some people might not. You when in your friend circles, you live in bubbles, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, if you say something outside of your friend circle, maybe someone thinks that actually you're very, very reasonable in saying this. But I love Phil Foden. I love Phil Foden. I think he's an extraordinarily good player. And there was a time when Bukayo Saka was, bursting onto the scene. I thought Foden was clear. 3 years ago, Foden was an incredible player. I thought it was clear. But I think the shoe's on the other foot now. Saka's obviously overtaken him, and now is probably the second best right forward in the world behind Mo. But my unpopular opinion would be that I think we should move heaven and earth to get Phil Foden to Arsenal. I would love to see Phil Foden at Arsenal, not in place of Saka, obviously, but in that team, that left eight, or maybe at number 10, alongside Odegaard. And, you know, he's spoken so many times before about Mikel Arteta and how influential he's been in his personal life, in his growing up life, in his football life. And, you know, with all these charges, and if he gets bored of being at City, and, you know, where did he go? He's won 15, 16 trophies, and he's 24, 25 years of age. Like, if they end up in League One or whatever, if they just, you know, they get fined and they don't do anything, if he's available, having worked with Mikel, and if Pep fucks off, then we should, honestly, I don't know how you feel. I mean, like, so when I said it to my circle of friends, they all think I'm completely batshit. But I think he's phenomenal, and I think he'd be perfect in that number 10 role.
He is a profile. Do you know what? I've talked with Alex before, and the only way I could explain the type of player I would want, he's not the perfect. I don't think you're ever going to get the perfect. Maybe Camavinga would be the perfect left eight for me, but Phil Foden's ability to just turn and drive forwards. I mean, he's done it against us. I can remember.
He's brilliant.
You know, there's certain times that he does pick up the ball and drive, and I just go, oh, I just wish we had that in someone. We don't have that quality. Whether or not we could get him, it's a good question.
We don't know how the cards will play out. Sorry, go on,
Alex was saying he would sell a kidney to get Isak.
Yeah.
Would you sell a kidney to get Phil Foden?
Oh, I don't think Foden is much of a game changer as Isak would be for Arsenal, particularly in the need that we have at the moment. So I like my kidneys. I'll probably keep them. However, I'll probably share Alex's sentiment about Isak, to be honest. No, I'd sell body parts for Alex Isak, but maybe not Phil Foden. That's a good question. Do you know what? I've just thought of something else, if I may. I know you might want to change this to unpopular opinions. How about this? Just to kind of see your reaction. William Saliba is the best young player I've ever seen. And I say that, Forder, while you ponder, because to do it, what he's doing at this age, on this stage, as someone who is so young in that position as well, he is the best young talent I have ever seen come to Arsenal. And I've seen Cesc, I've seen Wilshere, I've seen Anelka, I've seen Vieira. I cannot, you know, I can't put into words how unbelievable William Saliba is at football, at being a defender. He makes the game look effortless. He is the roller, the Rolls Royce. He's still so young, calm. He's unbelievable. And I think he's on Van Dijk's level now.
Yeah.
And he's got 10 years on him. So that's my second unpopular opinion, because people batter me for that as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like,
I think that's a really good debate.
You were there for Cesc, you were there for Anelka, you were there for Vieira. All absolutely fabulous. Ashley Cole, one of my favourite ever players. You know, I had the privilege of going to Highbury and watching Ashley Cole. Was devastated to get the day he signed for Chelsea. Absolutely gutted about the way that we fumbled the bag on that. But Saliba's got it all, man. Honestly, for that.
Yeah, I mean, the only two players for me, Fabregas, he came in at a time. I mean, he came in at a time where we had Patrick Vieira, one of the greatest midfielders ever in the Premier League. Arguably our best captain. Some would say Adams, some would say O'Leary. I mean, so on and so forth. But he's definitely up there. So for me, I wouldn't say Fabregas. Anelka and Ashley Cole, though. I just remember. I can remember Anelka. Anelka came through in the first year I ever went to Highbury.
Yeah,
he was just, his turn of pace was just something unbelievable. If people were younger than us and you haven't seen him, please go and watch him, because I mean, he had a fantastic career, and obviously he went to Madrid and Chelsea, Liverpool, Bolton. He went everywhere, you know. But that version of Nicolas Anelka, I think if he stayed at the club, I do wonder if he would have got to the heights that Thierry Henry got to.
Could you imagine them both together? I know we wouldn't.
Oh.
I know we wouldn't assign Thierry Henry because obviously Anelka brought in 20-odd million quid for us. But could you imagine the two together? I mean, look, we could probably, now we're thinking about them off the cuff, we could probably rattle out loads more. But yeah, William Saliba, I think for me, to say that he's the best young Arsenal player I've ever seen, it is a bold claim because I'm so old. And, you know, Paul Merson as well, back in the late 80s. It was
has he had the biggest impact? Because I would argue he has, in terms of...
No, I would disagree with that respectfully. I think Vieira probably had a bigger impact because he was really the start, wasn't he, of everything that Arsene Wenger was trying to do. And, you know, Arsene Wenger's brilliant interview with Mo Farah today talking about Vieira being the most influential signing that he made in his time. And I can't argue with that. But I just think for a defender in particular to come in and play alongside Gabriel, you know, under a rookie coach at a time when we were going from 8th to now back-to-back title challenges and hopefully a winner. In fact, you know what? I'm going to see my unpopular opinion and raise it for you, Forder.
Oh.
I think William Saliba could be the first defender in a very long time to win the Ballon d'Or. Not this season, but like at some point.
That
Who
is
was
a
the last
bold
defender
claim.
to win the Ballon d'Or?
Cannavaro? Was it Cannavaro?
Let me have a look. Defender to win the Ballon d'Or.
I mean, I've answered that pretty quick, so I'm hoping that's it.
Franz Beckenbauer was the first defender to do it, won it in 72 and then 76. And it says Fabio Cannavaro, 2006, yes. The most recent defender, 19 years ago. So if it could happen, it's that guy. That's that. I'm just going to drop the mic and I'm out.
I love that. That's great. Honestly, I really appreciate that, mate. We'll finish up there. That's great. What an ending. Saliba is winning the Ballon d'Or this year.
I love that.
That's how I'm starting this. That's getting clipped up. It's done there. Thank you, honestly, so much for coming on. Like,
it's been a pleasure.
Genuinely, it's been wicked to have you on. Like, I'm beaming. It's like it's made my year. And it's only the 3rd of January recording. So thank you so much, FK.
But you know, it's weird being on the other side of the mic. And it's actually quite nice. So thank you for having me as well, man. Appreciate it.
You just have to like deal with me bumbling around with all these different things and slides and getting it wrong. But
it's hard, isn't it?
Oh,
it's hard. It's so hard hard doing content production creation. It's so hard. People just they don't appreciate it until you're in the hot seat. That's right.
I said that they're doing the instant reactions. Yeah. Oh, I can see why Rohan refuses to do it now. I sweat. Here's a little behind the scenes for everyone watching. So every time there's an instant reaction, I have to write down notes during the game. So, you know, you never really fully enjoy the game. I feel like I watch it differently when I know I'm going to do an instant reaction. And then just before we go live, I have to change my t-shirt because I sweat so much, panicking about going live. So a quick different shirt. I'm on.
Super.
So there we go. But if you haven't, please go follow FK on Twitter. Your account is my favorite X account. The biggest wind-up merchant on X. I love it. I love it. Just
thank you.
It's just constant. It's great. Never over the top. You just get it just right.
You got to go fishing with the right bait. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Obviously, the Latte firm as well. What an amazing podcast you've got there. We have got Yambele coming on soon as well.
Oh,
which is,
great.
I know, especially I'm getting him after his big promotion.
This guy, honestly, I've created a monster.
He's asked. He asked for his own slot. He said, "I'm not going on with FK. I want my own slot." He's asked for fees to come on, all sorts. Honestly, yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, he'll be on the
Good.
next one. But honestly, the work you do is unbelievable. I'm sure
Thank you,
everyone
man.
has subscribed to you, but if you haven't, please go and do that straight after this. But thank you so much. Honestly, one of the nicest guys going on the content creation scene. Thank you so much. And if you haven't done so, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.